It's February 1872. A 32-year-old accountant walks into the offices of 26 Cleveland oil refiners. He is polite. He brings no lawyers, no armed men, just a ledger and an offer. His name is John D. Rockefeller. His company is Standard Oil. The offer: sell at his price, or watch him make kerosene at half your cost until you are bankrupt, invisible, erased. 22 of them sell. In 6 weeks, the other 4 fight. They are gone within a year. History calls it the Cleveland Massacre. Rockefeller called it cooperation. John Davidson Rockefeller is born in 1839 in upstate New York. His father, William Avery Rockefeller, is a con man. Not metaphorically. He literally sells fake cancer cures from a wagon, travels under a false name in towns he doesn't recognize, and disappears for months at a time. He teaches his son one lesson above all: never negotiate from desperation. By 16, Rockefeller is keeping ledgers for a Cleveland trading firm. He is not flashy, not driven by ego. He tracks every cent with monastic discipline. Waste is a personal offense. Efficiency is a moral virtue. In 1863, at 23, he backs into the most chaotic industry in America. Pennsylvania has just struck oil. Fortunes are being made and demolished overnight. Crude oil prices swing from $20 a barrel to 10 cents in a single year, a 1,000-fold collapse. Men are drilling wells, starting fights, burning each other's equipment. It is the Wild West of energy. Most people see chaos. Rockefeller sees 2 things: everyone else is panicking, and nobody owns the infrastructure. He understands that oil wells are a lottery. But refineries? Refineries are a toll booth. The oil that hundreds of frantic drillers pull from the ground all has to pass through a refinery to become kerosene, the product that lights every home in America. Whoever controls the refinery controls the game. In January 1870, he makes it official: Standard Oil of Ohio, capitalized at $1 million, 10 shareholders, a clear mission: do not compete, dominate. By 1870, Standard already controls roughly 10% of U.S. refinery capacity. Within a decade, it controls 90%. Here's exactly how. Lesson 1. Control the choke point, not the resource. Rockefeller is never interested in drilling. He lets wildcatters fight over who owns the ground. He focuses on refineries, the narrow gate that all crude oil must pass through to become anything worth selling. But in 1871, he identifies a deeper choke point: the railroad. Every refinery in America depends on railroads to ship oil. Without a competitive rail rate, your margins evaporate before the product reaches a customer. Rockefeller sees this and moves. He engineers the South Improvement Company, a secret arrangement with 3 major railroads: the Erie, the New York Central, and the Pennsylvania. The deal is elegant and vicious. Standard Oil guarantees the railroads enormous shipping volumes. In return, the railroads give Standard Oil rebates, secret discounts of up to 50% on every barrel it ships. But the most devastating clause is what lawyers now call a drawback provision. The railroads don't just discount Standard's own shipments. They pay Rockefeller a cut of every shipping fee his competitors pay. His rival's own logistics costs are literally funding his war chest. This is exclusive dealing with kickback provisions. In 1871, it is called a business arrangement. Today, it triggers federal prosecution. When competitors discover the scheme, public outrage is immediate. On every lip, witnesses reported, there was but one word: conspiracy. Pennsylvania revokes the SIC's charter in April 1872. Rockefeller doesn't slow down. The informal arrangements continue through other channels. Lesson 2. Negotiate from volume, not desperation. The rebates give Rockefeller something no competitor can replicate: a structural cost advantage locked into infrastructure. He doesn't need to be smarter, he doesn't need better engineers. He needs to ship more volume than anyone else, and he already does. So, in February 1872, he makes the move. He visits every refinery owner in Cleveland, one by one. His pitch is not a threat, it is a mathematical reality. Standard Oil produces kerosene for half what you spend. Sell to him at a fair price today, or wait until the math kills you. 22 out of 26 sell. In 6 weeks. The 4 who refuse are out of business within a year. Ron Chernow, in his biography of Rockefeller, calls it simply a conquest by fear. Lesson 3. Vertical integration. Turn competitors into customers and suppliers into subjects. By 1874, Standard Oil controls roughly half of American refinery capacity, but Rockefeller is already thinking about the next fragility: railroads. Railroads can be pressured by rival industrialists. They can be regulated. They are a single point of external control he does not own. So, he builds his own infrastructure. Through the 1870s and into the 1880s, Standard Oil constructs 40,000 miles of pipeline, a private oil transit network threading across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York. It acquires a fleet of its own railroad tank cars so it can negotiate from position even against the railroads. It buys cooperages, barrel-making factories, so it pays nobody for containers. It builds chemical plants that take waste byproducts from the refining process and convert them into lubricants, paraffin, and paint. By 1880, Standard controls 90% of American refinery capacity and 80% of the pipeline network. Every competitor who needs to ship oil or deliver refined product to a customer must use infrastructure that Standard Oil owns, at prices Standard Oil sets. This is textbook vertical integration. Own every link in the production chain from raw material to end consumer. What it produces in practice is a closed system. The only question remaining is how much you charge for entry. Lesson 4. Use legal structure as a competitive weapon. This is called regulatory arbitrage. By 1882, the antitrust movement is gaining momentum. Individual states are attempting to restrict corporate size and cross-state ownership. Ohio law explicitly prevents Standard Oil of Ohio from holding stock in companies based in other states. His general counsel, Samuel Dodd, invents a solution: the trust. Shareholders of 40 separate Standard companies agree to hand their stock certificates to 9 trustees, all controlled by Rockefeller. The trustees manage all 40 companies as a single unified operation. The companies remain technically separate legal entities. They are not separate in any practical sense. This is the Standard Oil Trust, the first major business trust in American history. It becomes the template for every industrial combination that follows, and it is invented for one purpose: to do legally what the law said could not be done. Lesson 5. Information is a strategic weapon. Deploy it asymmetrically. Rockefeller's most underestimated advantage was not oil or pipelines. It was intelligence. Standard Oil ran a systematic espionage operation. Railroad clerks were bribed to report the shipment volumes, destinations, and customers of every competitor in real time. Company agents cultivated sources inside competitor businesses and government offices. The intelligence was collated, analyzed, and acted on. The result? Standard Oil knew every barrel a competitor shipped, to whom, and at what price, often before it arrived at its destination. Ida Tarbell documented dozens of cases where Standard received detailed shipment reports directly from railroad employees, sometimes within hours of a competitor's cargo departing. In modern terms, this is exactly what Google does with search query data, what Amazon does with the purchasing and browsing behavior of third-party sellers on its platform, what Facebook did when it monitored Instagram's engagement metrics before deciding to acquire it. The platform sees everything. The competitors operate blind. Lesson 6. Predatory pricing is surgical, not a sledgehammer. When a competitor refused to sell and couldn't be bought out, Standard Oil deployed what courts later documented as targeted predatory pricing, and they did it with precision. It did not flood the entire national market with cheap oil. That would destroy Standard's own margins everywhere. Instead, it identified the specific cities and distribution markets where the holdout operated and cut prices there, below Standard's own production cost if necessary, while maintaining premium pricing in every other market. In documented cases, Standard dropped kerosene to 5 cents a gallon in targeted markets. The competitor, unable to operate at a loss indefinitely and unable to access capital because Standard had poisoned their banking relationships, would collapse. Their assets, refinery equipment, customer contracts, distribution routes, would then be purchased by Standard Oil at distressed prices. As Rockefeller himself put it, with the serene confidence of a man who has never once doubted his own logic, competition is a sin. For 30 years, it appears, Rockefeller has built something beyond accountability. Then, a bookkeeper's daughter from Titusville, Pennsylvania, decides to count. Ida Tarbell's father ran an independent oil company in western Pennsylvania. Standard Oil's predatory pricing campaign in the early 1870s destroyed it. She watched what the trust did to small operators from childhood. In 1900, assigned to write a business profile for McClure's magazine, she begins an investigation she will not finish for 4 years. She does not write from outrage. She writes from court records, railroad filings, congressional testimony transcripts. She interviews hundreds of people Standard Oil considered too small to notice. In 1904, she publishes The History of the Standard Oil Company. 2 volumes, hundreds of pages of sourced, meticulously documented evidence. No accusation without a filing date, a dollar amount, a named witness. The American public is electrified. Theodore Roosevelt, who has been searching for a target, finds one with a paper trail 40 years long. In 1906, the Department of Justice files suit under the Sherman Antitrust Act. The legal record the government assembles runs to 12,000 pages, documenting 4 decades of restraint of trade violations. In May 1911, the Supreme Court rules unanimously. Standard Oil is an illegal monopoly. It must be broken into 34 separate companies. The board of Standard Oil holds an emergency meeting. Rockefeller is on the golf course when someone rides out to tell him the verdict. He reportedly smiles, looks at the messenger, and says 3 words: "Buy Standard Oil." Lesson 7. Build systems that survive the attacks designed to kill them. The Supreme Court believed it had ended Standard Oil. What it actually did was unlock value that the trust structure had been compressing. Rockefeller owned approximately 25% of the entire Standard Oil empire. When the 34 successor companies were freed from the bureaucratic mass of the unified trust, they attracted independent investment, moved faster, and within a year, their combined share prices roughly doubled. His $300 million stake became approximately $900 million. The government destroyed the company and made him the richest human being in modern history. A fortune that, adjusted for the size of the American economy, has never been exceeded. But the deeper lesson is this: you cannot kill an architecture with a legal ruling. The 34 successor companies inherited the pipelines, the refineries, the customer relationships, the operational knowledge baked into decades of process. Standard Oil of New Jersey became Esso, then Exxon. Standard Oil of New York became Saucony, then Mobil. In 1999, 88 years after the breakup, they merged to form ExxonMobil, briefly the largest company on Earth. Standard of California became Chevron. Standard of Indiana became Amoco, absorbed into BP. Rockefeller's architecture outlived the antitrust law designed to destroy it by nearly a century. The 7 lessons of Standard Oil. 1. Control the choke point, not the resource. 2. Build structural cost advantages through volume. 3. Vertical integration turns your supply chain into a moat. 4. Legal structure is itself a competitive weapon. 5. Information asymmetry is decisive. 6. Targeted predatory pricing neutralizes specific threats. 7. Build a system complex enough that destroying it only releases more value. Amazon controls the fulfillment logistics layer of American e-commerce. Google controls the information discovery layer of the global internet. Apple controls the software distribution choke point on 1 billion devices. Each of them discovered, or inherited intellectually, the core insight Rockefeller spent 40 years proving. Control the infrastructure. Own the choke point. Build a system so deeply embedded that breaking it only makes it stronger. The Monopoly Playbook. First written in Cleveland, 1870. Still running. Rockefeller lives to 97. He gives away over $500 million, funding the University of Chicago, medical research institutions that still bear his name, and public health campaigns that eradicate hookworm across the American South. Whether a lifetime of charity redeems 40 years of ruthless monopoly is a question for philosophers. This channel does business analysis. What the analysis shows is this: if you want to understand how wealth gets built at genuine scale, not startup scale, not influencer scale, but civilization reshaping scale, studying the people who broke the rules is more instructive than studying the people who followed them. Next episode, Andrew Carnegie, the immigrant steelworker who built the most vertically integrated industrial company in American history, crushed a union at Homestead, and then spent 30 years and $350 million trying to buy back his reputation. See you there.